Randall Hughes with GodGlorified.com, and we're commenting on today's scripture reading for September the 16th. Our readings were from Ezra chapter 1, chapter 5, chapter 6, and then Daniel chapter 6 and Daniel chapter 10, as well as Psalms 126 and Psalms 85. And it's interesting, in the very first verse we read, Ezra 5:13, it says, "But the first year of Cyrus, the king of Babylon," of course we know he was king of Persia, but yet it's believed that he said it this way to signify that he had overthrown and was now ruling over the nation of Babylon. And so we're reading there, and it's amazing how God stirs up Cyrus, who I want to say it was about 175 years before that we were reading in Isaiah, that we were pointing out that here we are, over 100, well over 100 years, 150 at least in my recollection, that Isaiah is calling Cyrus by name, that he is going to be the instrument that God will use to restore Israel, restore Jerusalem, restore his people. And it was more so, I guess, Judah than Israel. There's times I still speak of them as one people, in spite of the divided nations. And so, and that they would build the house of God. And so it's amazing how God moved and worked. And we have proof of that, the Cyrus stone that's in existence today, that is an archaeological find that we have that proves these passages of Scripture. And so it's pretty amazing, the God that we serve and the way that he works. And so God turning their captivity, and those that go forth, those that sow in tears shall reap in joy. A great scripture from the 126th Psalm. And God turning back their captivity, the God of their salvation, God of our salvation, and he will give their land increase and go before them. And so Cyrus restored the vessels from the treasure of those vessels that have been taken from Jerusalem, and Nebuchadnezzar, and we know just most recently Belshazzar, the king, was drinking from them in chapter 5 at the moment of the attacks on Babylon by Media Persia. And so the blessing that he did to try to help them get materials, supply the materials, provide money from the treasury and what have you, it was truly an act of God to cause that to take place. And then in chapter 6, we find that Darius, there was one over Media and the other over Persia, that although they were somewhat co-regents, I guess you could say, Daniel was made the president. He was the highest ranking official under the king. And there were three somewhat equal presidents to Daniel, but Daniel was the first of the three, and they were all jealous. And so they sought to find a way to destroy him. And so they tricked the king into signing a decree. They said, there's no way we're going to get him to find anything against his life, anything against him, unless we do it concerning his God and his law. And that's what they did. And so they said that if anyone makes a petition and to anyone other than the king for 30 days, they would be thrown into the lion's den. And a little bit of an ego moment for Darius. He signs the decree, not thinking what might be the implications of it. And then immediately, when the men come and say, we found Daniel praying, and Daniel didn't change his routine, still prayed with the window open, didn't change, did what he did aforetime, and he prayed to his God. And what an awesome God. The king was tormented and displeased with himself, and they came to him again, and that evening the king had tried to find a way to get out of it, and unable to do so, they said, you cannot change this decree. And so they threw Daniel into the lion's den, put a seal on it, and those princes put their seal on the stone on the mouth. And then the king was unable to sleep, stayed up all night fasting and praying, and in the morning he made his way to the den, and sure enough, Daniel was still there. God had preserved him and saved him from the mouths of the lion, but the lions were not withheld from those princes and their families that Darius had thrown into that lion's den after Daniel was taken out. Chapter 10 of Daniel is the beginning of some discourse on some visions that Daniel will have that are concerning the latter days. I believe some of them are taking place, some of it possibly even as we speak. There's things taking place that are the fulfilling of Daniel's prophecy here. And so some amazing passages here in the 10th chapter, approximately the year 537 BC. And after 7 days of fasting, and this is something interesting to me, in verse 3 of chapter 10, he says, I ate no pleasant bread. That word pleasant bread there is Strong's number H2530. And it's the same word that is then used again. And I had this in another Bible, and it's closing on me. Used again in chapter 10, verse 11, and again in chapter 10, verse 19. In chapter 10, verse 11, it says, he said, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved. And so it's translated as greatly beloved, but it's the same word that means pleasant in verse 3. And then in verse 19, once again, the one like the appearance of a man speaking to him said, O man greatly beloved. And so twice it calls him, in other words, this is one of the applications that can be made there. Daniel gave up what was pleasant to him, and by giving it up, it made him pleasant to God. And so just encouraging you, I don't know if you have fasting as a part of your daily devotion, or not daily devotion, but certainly a part of your life. But I would encourage you to make it a part of your, at least, if not once a month, at least, I would challenge, first of all, once a week, at least to fast a day if you can, or whatever you can, to make sacrifice of something, whether it's food all the time or something that you give up for God, and say, God, I'm doing this for you for this period of time, and see if God doesn't show favor on you as you attempt to show him that you're more concerned about spiritual things than just the fleshly things. And I believe that makes us precious, that makes us greatly beloved in the sight of God. And so that's what I challenge you with today. God bless you.